Welcome to the deep dive. We explore fascinating stories to find that core wisdom you can actually use. Today, we're tackling a question, maybe one that challenges how you think about success. Could the biggest driver for, well, huge achievement be something super simple like a notebook? And can a dream, one you really hold on to and write down, be the blueprint for, incredible wealth? We're diving into Santosh Bhaumik's story, an absolutely remarkable journey. This is a man who started with literally nothing in a small Indian village and built a 200 crore company. I mean, that scale is just staggering given where he began. Our deep dive today, it's anchored in his own words, really powerful stuff from Notebook to Riches, Santosh Bhaumik's journey. Specifically, his account called Ek Garib Ladki Ka Sapna or 200 Crore Ki Company. And our goal here, what we want to uncover, is how exactly did this simple notebook become such an important roadmap? We look at the mindset shifts, those deep changes in thinking that made it possible, and really importantly, find those surprising, actionable bits of wisdom.
That you, listening right now, can maybe weave into your own goals no matter how big or small they seem.
Yeah, it's tempting to just see it as, feel-good underdog story. But what's really fascinating is how deliberate he seems to have been, almost methodical, cultivating that self-belief, executing the vision. And the way he starts this story, it immediately sets up this huge contrast. Poverty, then massive success. It forces you, really, to look past the usual resources, money, connections, and think about the internal ones.
Okay, let's unpack that starting right from the beginning. Santosh introduces himself, just Santosh, and then, boom, paints this incredibly vivid, stark picture of his childhood. Small village, poor family. He doesn't hold back on describing the lack of resources. He says, and this really hits home, "Bachpan mein mere paas na kitapti na mobile na paisa," which, for anyone unfamiliar with Hindi, means, in childhood, I had no book, no mobile, no money. It's
Right.
just this powerful statement of complete scarcity sets the scene.
Exactly. And what stands out there isn't just what he lacked, but how he frames it. It's intentional. He's not just, complaining about hardship. He's setting a baseline by saying, no books, no mobile, no money. These things we see as essential now. He makes us wonder, okay, what did he have? It points immediately towards those non-material things. Suggests the journey wasn't about getting stuff, but growing what was inside. It kind of primes you to look for those less obvious assets.
That's a really good point, the intangible assets.
Yeah.
Because someone listening might feel they lack resources, or maybe they feel overwhelmed by too many resources. So what are some of those intangible assets people might overlook in themselves? And how does Santosh's start, just saying what he didn't have, hint at how we find and use them?
Well, often it's things like resilience, grit, maybe just intense curiosity, a sense of purpose, or even just a really active imagination. Santosh's opening lines, they hint at this powerful internal drive, right? When he lists what wasn't there, books, phone, money, he's also implying what was there. Maybe an uncluttered mind, the ability to observe, a deep hunger for something different. These are things anyone really from any background could potentially tap into. So his story isn't just about overcoming lack. It's maybe about finding and amplifying what was already there deep down.
Right. So despite that incredible lack of things, Santosh says he had one powerful possession. A sapna, a dream. He mentions lying awake, wondering, could I change my life? But he's, as often happens, especially when you start with nothing, people weren't exactly cheering him on. He recalls that others, "Hasta de kekte di igare blatka kar lega." They laughed, basically. Said, what's this poor boy going to achieve? That's the world pushing back. But then his statement, "Lekin main har nain mani," which means, but I did not give up. Can you talk a bit about that? The power of that single focus, the sapna, and just refusing to quit when everything and everyone seems against you.
Yeah, this gets into the whole psychology of persistence, doesn't it? That sapna, it's not just a vague wish. It's like an internal compass. It gives direction, gives meaning, especially when the outside world is just full of negativity. And what's interesting is how, for Santosh, that skepticism didn't seem to crush the dream. If anything, it maybe hardened his resolve. It suggests sometimes that resistance, it acts like a forge, makes you tougher instead of breaking you. And when he says, main harna imani, that signals a really strong internal locus of control. He was deciding his reaction, not letting the circumstances dictate his whole future.
That's a vital difference. Not just ignoring it, but maybe using it somehow. Because lots of us, when we're going after something, a new job, a creative thing, we face those dismissals. Sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle. So for someone listening now, facing those doubts, maybe from others, maybe from inside their own head, how do they build that kind of solid resolve, Santosh shows?
Well, it often starts with really getting clear on why that dream, that sapna, matters so much to you personally. If your why is strong enough, the how just becomes figuring it out, right? And the negativity, it just becomes a noise. Santos didn't just have a dream. He had an unshakable one. And that often comes from linking it to something deep, like core values or just a desperate need for change. It's probably not about never feeling doubt, but having a way to always return to that core conviction. For him, it sounds like the dream wasn't just an idea, it was vital, a necessity.
Okay, so he has this unshakable dream, but zero resources. How does he even begin to make it real? He tells us very clearly the first step, and it sounds almost too simple. I started my journey with a notebook. It really is that basic, just writing. Some might dismiss that, but what makes this kind of writing, this mapping out of dreams, different from, say, just a shopping list, especially when you have nothing else?
That shift from abstract idea to something actionable, that's absolutely key. And it's more than just, making the abstract concrete. When you write down dreams, your thoughts, you're actually firing up several cognitive processes. You're taking something internal, putting it outside yourself. That alone frees up mental space, allows for clearer thinking. The act of writing, it forces you to find the words, to organize, to clarify. It takes a passing thought and turns it into a stated intention. For Santosh, lacking other tools, that notebook became his strategy room, his brainstorm buddy, his accountability partner, his memory bank, all in one. It turns a fuzzy wish into something structured, something you can look at, refine, and then importantly, act on.
That's a great explanation of the process happening there. It's not just putting pen to paper, it's the mental work it enables. Thinking about that, how could someone listening, maybe someone who already keeps a journal, use it more like Santosh's roadmap? Less like just a diary for venting or listing chores. What makes it truly transformational?
I think the transformational part really comes down to intention and consistency. Santosh wasn't just recording things. He was actively trying to shape his future on those pages. It wasn't about documenting the past, but designing the future. So that means not just writing down the dream, but maybe breaking it down, exploring steps, asking, okay, how could I do this? Sketching out little plans, maybe even working through potential problems on paper. It becomes an active conversation with yourself, using the notebook to think strategically and commit to taking action, turning those big hopes into actual goals you have to do something about.
And the result, the payoff for all this, the dream, the effort, the notebook. Santosh sums it up proudly. He says, Men apni मेहनत से, अपने विचार से और अपने हौसले से एक छोटी सी 200 crore की कंपनी में बदल दिया, which means I transformed a small idea into a 200 crore company with my hard work, my ideas, and my courage. He names 3 key pillars here. Mehnat, that's consistent hard work. Vichar, insightful ideas, critical thinking, and Hazel, that unwavering courage or resolve. It's not just one thing, it's presented like a formula. But what makes that combination so potent? How do these 3 things work together to create that kind of massive growth?
It's a really powerful trio. Hard work, ideas, courage, and their synergy, how they feed each other, that's the magic, really. Mehnat, the hard work, that's the engine, right? It provides the constant push, builds momentum, gets you over hurdles. But just working hard without direction, that's just being busy. That's where Vischer, the ideas, come in. They're like the steering wheel, the GPS, guiding the effort, spotting opportunities, figuring out how to adapt when things go wrong. And then, crucially, Hazel, courage, that's the fuel. It's the grit to get back up after you fail, the guts to try something unconventional, the mental toughness to stick with it when doubt creeps in. Take away any one of those and the whole thing weakens. Hard work without ideas is just spinning your wheels. Ideas without work are just daydreams, and both without courage. They just fizzle out when things get tough. It's how they play off each other that allows for not just growth, but strong, resilient growth.
That's such a clear breakdown. No magic wand, no pure luck, just a very focused, deliberate combination of these practical things working together.
It makes me think of that phrase, overnight success takes 10 years. For someone listening, maybe they feel strong in one area, say hard work, but maybe less so in courage or generating ideas. What's a small thing they could do to strengthen one of those pillars in a way that actually helps the others too, not just improving it in isolation?
That's a great question. To boost Mehnat, maybe start small, super consistent habits tied to the goal. Build that discipline muscle daily. For Vichar, maybe actively look for different perspectives. Read outside your field. Ask why not or what if more often. And then importantly, write those thoughts down. Connect the dots. And for Hausel, maybe deliberately take tiny steps outside your comfort zone. Celebrate the small wins. Consciously reframe setbacks as, okay, what did I learn here? The key is seeing them linked. A small act of courage might lead to a win, which fuels more hard work, which might spark a new idea. It becomes a positive cycle. Okay, so beyond the business success, the millions, Santosh offers this really powerful universal message, a philosophy almost. He uses his journey to lay out what feels like a blueprint for anyone aiming high, no matter their starting point. His core idea is, आज मैं दुनिया को ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि गरीबी रुकावट नहीं है, रुकावट सिर्फ सोच में होती है वे. That's so potent. It translates to, today I want to tell the world that poverty is not a barrier. The barrier is only in one's thinking. And then he adds this incredibly empowering follow-up. अगर आप सच लो तो दुनिया की कोई ताकत आपको रोक नहीं सकती, meaning if you decide, no power in the world can stop you. Wow, it sounds almost too simple. What's the real depth behind that mindset shift? And why is it often so hard for people, myself included sometimes, to truly live by that?
This really is the so what of his story, isn't it? And yeah, it sounds simple, but putting it into practice is anything but. The power is in shifting your sense of agency, where control lies. Most of us tend to operate with an external locus of control. We think our circumstances determine what's possible for us. Santosh flips that completely. He puts the control firmly internal. He's essentially saying your biggest limit isn't a lack of money outside, it's a lack of possibility inside your head. Poverty of thought, not pocket. Why is it hard? Because it demands, frankly, radical self-responsibility. It challenges those deep-seated beliefs we have about cause and effect. It means facing down fear, doubt, and maybe that comforting feeling of blaming things outside ourselves. But if you can embrace it, it's incredibly liberating. It shifts you from feeling like a victim of circumstance to feeling empowered.
That really gets to the heart of the internal battle. So many of us do fall into that trap, letting our situation define our potential. Santosh just turns that idea upside down. For someone listening who recognizes those thought barriers in themselves, what's a practical way to start chipping away at them? How do you cultivate that mindset of possibility, even when external challenges feel very, very real?
It often starts with just awareness.
Yeah.
Noticing those limiting thoughts when they pop up. Like when you think, oh, I can't do X because I don't have Y. Just pause. Ask yourself, is that absolutely true? Like a law of physics? Or is it just my current belief? Then try to consciously reframe it. Instead of, I can't because, ask, okay, how could I achieve this even without Y? Or what do I have that I can use? Santosh's story is a perfect example, right? He didn't fixate on not having books. He focused on having a dream and a notebook. It's that active mental redirection, rebuilding beliefs bit by bit.
So why share this story now? It's deeply personal. Santosh actually tells us the specific reason he wants his narrative out there. He says, मेरी कहानी notebook LM in लिखी जा रही है ताकि हर एक लड़का जिसने सपना देखा वापस से who है उसका sake, which translates to, my story is being written in Notebook LM so that every boy who has dreamed but is afraid can hear it. What's the significance of telling a story like this specifically for people who are feeling hesitant, feeling scared?
That intention is huge. Targeting those held back by fear or hesitation, it makes his personal victory into something more, a shared tool, almost like vicarious mentoring. Because stories like Santosh's, they don't just inspire in a vague way, they offer a potential roadmap. They show possibility if you're stuck, paralyzed by fear or self-doubt. Hearing a real example of someone who overcame much bigger obstacles, that's concrete proof. It can be done. It helps demystify success, makes it feel less about luck or genius, and more about principles you can actually apply. It's like permission to take action, providing a mental blueprint to push through that inertia.
And that really hits on why we do this deep dive. It's for you, listening now, maybe the dreamer who's been holding back, feeling those internal roadblocks. Santosh isn't just recounting his success, he's extending an invitation to consider your own possibilities. His story isn't just history, it's meant to be a catalyst, sparking courage, ambition, and then he leaves us with this really direct, punchy command. It perfectly wraps up his whole philosophy, he says, "मैं उन सबको कहना चाहता हूँ, सपने देखो, लिखो और जी कर दिखाओ." Translating to, I want to tell all of them, dream, write, and live them out. Just 3 verbs, dream, write, live. Seems simple, but they hold the weight of that entire 200-core journey. Can you break down what each command really asks of someone ready to start their own path?
Absolutely. Those 3 verbs, they're such a concise, powerful summary of his whole approach, the practical steps. Sapne deko, dream. That's the start, the ideation. But it's active, not passive wishing. It's letting yourself truly envision something beyond today without shutting it down prematurely. Liko, right. This is that crucial planning commitment stage we talked about, making the dream concrete, tangible, giving it structure, making yourself accountable, creating that roadmap. And G Tekayo, live them out. This is the execution. This pulls in the may not, hard work, the vigor, ideas and problem solving, and the housel courage we discussed. It's the action part, the consistent effort, the resilience, the bravery to actually do the things on the roadmap and bring that vision into the real world. It's a complete cycle. Aspire, articulate, actualize.
It really is a clear path from just having an idea to making it real. It cuts through all the noise and gets down to the basics. See it, plan it, do it. A powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest achievements start with the simplest steps, as long as they're taken with real intention and you just keep going. And that wraps up our deep dive into Santosh Pamek's incredible journey. From a small village, no resources, to a 200-crore company fueled by a dream and a notebook. His story really hammers home that idea. The biggest walls are often the ones we build in our own minds. And that blend, hard work, smart ideas, and sheer courage, channeled through a clear plan, is an incredibly powerful force.
It really brings it back to that central theme, doesn't it? That limitations are so often self-imposed. And that simple tools, things available to literally everyone, like intentionally writing down your thoughts and dreams, they can be unbelievably potent engines for change. Santosh's life is just this vivid proof of how internal belief, when you make it external and act on it, can fundamentally change your reality.
So as you go about your day-to-day, maybe just think about this. What's one small thing, something that seems maybe insignificant right now, even just taking 5 minutes to write down one dream, one challenging thought in any old notebook, what could that become? Could that be the first tiny, deliberate step on your own 200-crore journey, whatever riches might mean for you? What dream are you ready to not just dream, but to write down and then truly live out?